Well, it came in quite a while ago, but essentially it was a song. There's a song, I don't know if you're familiar with, The Long Black Veil, and there's a version of it done by the Chieftains, actually, that Mick Jagger sings. One of the verses, two of the verses are, 10 years ago on a cold, dark night, there was someone killed beneath the town hall light. There were few at the scene, and they all did agree that the man who ran looked a lot like me. So I actually first heard that song when I was tending bar at an Irish pub in San Francisco, and it was played often, and that particular verse and the moral dilemma presented in it is really what inspired the book.
Okay, I mean, obviously we don't want to give too much away here, but the story seems to be set in Limerick. The Limerick Publican tells the story. So why Limerick?
Well, I actually first wrote this as a screenplay, and in the screenplay, I didn't have to be as specific to location. I set it in generally the west of Ireland. But when I decided to adapt it into a book, I wanted to set it in an actual location, and was very concerned, certainly as an American writing a book set in Ireland, I wanted to lend it as much authenticity as I could. I did a lot of research. As I said, I had already set it in the west of Ireland, and so I've spent some time back there. But I did a lot of research, looked at a lot of old maps, eventually found an area that sort of suited the things that I wanted to happen in the story. One of the other differences between the screenplay and the book is, again, the book is told from the voice of a publican in Limerick. And when I decided that that was the best way to sort of convey the story, I wanted to have sort of that city element, and the main characters are from actually the town that I call Clonlara, because that's the way it was spelled on the old maps when I found it. But
yeah, it's Clonlara now, but I'm sure everybody will know what you're talking about. Yeah,
they're from there, but the publican is from Limerick, and the characters spend a lot of time in Limerick. It's set in the early 1900s, and there's certainly there's some political background regarding all the events back then, but the story isn't so much political, so I wanted it set out and away from Dublin, and it just all sort of worked.
You were saying you've been around these parts then. You're obviously familiar with what you're writing. Your wife's from the area, so you've been to Limerick. What are your impressions of the area?
I've been there a few times now, and I love it. It's beautiful. I have strolled around Limerick a little bit, not as much as I'd like to, but it's beautiful. The whole area there. One of the things that I did a lot of research, and it's great because you can do so much research online now. But part of the story, and the story actually opens up with the boys catching a ride on a barge carrying Guinness to Limerick. That whole piece of it as well sort of captured my imagination as to watching the barges and the ships go up and down the canals, and that's sort of how it opens, with the two boys on a Guinness barge sailing into Limerick.
I mean, while I was flicking through the book, it made me smile because you clearly, as you mentioned earlier, had done your research. I mean, if you don't mind if I just read out a line or two here, it struck me as a sports fan anyway. As it turned out, both families, just like almost everyone else in southwest Ireland claimed, had attended the 1910 Munster Championship in Tralee when the great Tyler Mackey led Limerick to a stunner of a result against Cork. Now, Tyler Mackey, John Mackey, would have been a great Limerick hurler. So, you based it on certain true events there anyway. You really immersed yourself into the place.
I did, yeah, as much as I could. There's so much you can read now. I don't know how people did research before the internet. That particular passage there, I was looking for a big event, and certainly a good sporting event that would have been something that families who wouldn't necessarily know each other but would have been in the same place. And yeah, you can find something and then you can really dig into it. And I have to admit, I didn't know who Tyler Mackey was until I read that, but it certainly seemed like a big event that made sense for what I wanted to convey in the story.
One thing that struck me as well, looking through the book, was the importance of the theme of family. Was that something that you thought was really a Limerick thing in terms of how close family and friends are. I mean, it really struck me, the relationship between the two brothers.
Again, you know, obviously everybody has family. In the book, there's some complications there with the family, but again, my most direct experience with Limerick and certainly west of Ireland comes through Tony, and she comes from a rather big family. I think there's 8 or 9 brothers and sisters from her parents. Most of them are all still in that area and very close. And I've been over to several different gatherings where everybody's getting together. So, yeah, you know, I think, of course, family's important everywhere, but there's always family gatherings over there.